Netflix's hit series Narcos has captivated audiences with its gripping portrayal of the life and crimes of an infamous Colombian drug lord, Pablo Escobar. Narcos received praise for its thorough research and the artistic vision of Brazilian filmmaker Jose Padilla. While this show provides a compelling portrayal of Escobar's life, there are still many fascinating hidden facts about the drug lord that is worth exploring. Created just 4 years after Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria's death in 1993, Netflix has had its fair share of fame and controversy, much like the infamous drug lord. Due to the political nature of the story, there are some lesser-known facts about Escobar's life that the show doesn't delve into. This video seeks to expose other aspects of the story that may not have been explored, such as behind-the-scenes details, over-dramatized truths, the cartels, and the surviving Escobar's side of the story. While full of spoilers, this video sheds light on 10 things that Netflix may have overlooked or intentionally hidden about Pablo Escobar, the leader of the Medellin Cartel, the first narco-terrorist, and the richest criminal in history. 10. Research that led to the creation of the TV show. According to the story, Netflix had initially planned for the life story of the king of cocaine, Pablo Escobar, to be made into a full-length feature film instead of a TV show. However, as they began to conduct research on Escobar and gather evidence about his life, they quickly realized that a single movie would not be enough to do justice to the complexity of his character and the scope of his story. They came across numerous stories about the origins of Escobar's wealth, including one involving a man named Cockroach and his criminal activities, such as stealing gravestones before he began smuggling drugs. In addition to these discoveries, the producers were also influenced by the personal experiences of DEA agents Steve Murphy and Javier Pena, who had worked to bring down Escobar. The combination of these different sources of information convinced the producers that they knew very little about the real Escobar, and that a TV show would be a better format to explore his life and legacy. The resulting show, Narcos, has been praised for its thoroughness and attention to detail, including its accurate depiction of ethnic diversity and smaller details such as the miniature facades of colonial village houses hanging on the walls of Pablo's mother's home. Bernardo Aparicio Garcia, who grew up in Colombia around Escobar's era, has been among those who have appreciated the show for its extensive research and portrayal of the man and his times. 9. The role of Escobar's recordings. The level of detail in the TV show Narcos can be attributed to the recordings that were available from the time of Pablo Escobar. The notorious drug lord was a firm believer in keeping records of events, and was known to videotape events in his haciendas as they unfolded. This allowed the creators of the show to gain valuable insights into the conversations, fashion, and activities of Escobar and those around him. In contrast, the portrayal of Escobar in the movie was limited to scenes of him brooding and contemplating his next move in his ongoing battles with the government. However, the reality was quite different, as Escobar himself played a significant role in the production of the show. In fact, it's clear that the Medellin Cartel was a fan of media, as some of the recordings that they made were included in the show, providing a glimpse into the activities that took place within his haciendas. In addition to this, Escobar was known to be someone who was willing to go to great lengths to have his story told. He was known to buy or kidnap news reporters to ensure that his media was conveyed to the public. Given his love for media attention, it's safe to say that if he were alive today, he would have been a prolific user of social media platforms such as Twitter. 8. Controversies surrounding the portrayal of Pablo Escobar's family in Narcos. It's important to consider the accuracy of the events and interactions portrayed in the show Narcos, particularly with regard to Pablo Escobar's family. In fact, Pablo's brother, Roberto Escobar, was highly displeased with the show's portrayal of events. While Roberto was not depicted in the show, he was an important figure in Pablo's life and the Medellin Cartel, serving as the cartel's accountant until his arrest after Pablo's death. Roberto was particularly unhappy with the depiction of an accountant named Blackbeard in the first season of the show. He believed that this portrayal was inaccurate and had not been consulted with him or other family members. As a result, He demanded $1 billion in compensation from the streaming giant for using his and his brother's image without their permission. He also offered to review the accuracy of the second season before it aired, although it's unclear whether he actually did so. Other members of the Escobar family have also taken issue with aspects of the show's portrayal of events, such as the Palace of Justice siege and Pablo's death. These controversies highlight the challenges of portraying real-life events in a way that satisfies everyone involved, especially when it comes to the portrayal of sensitive and complex issues related to family members and their legacies. 7. The reality of Pablo's terrorist activities and cruelty. When watching Narcos, it's evident that Pablo Escobar was a terrifying figure. But there's more to his story than what's portrayed in the show. During a talk at a conference in Lithuania, Agent Steve Murphy discusses how Escobar was the first narco-terrorist to use violence to influence government policies against narcotic laws. While his terrorist activities are well documented in the show, his personal interactions with people are depicted as benign, except for the killings of Mocanda and Gallano. However, first-hand accounts from informants reveal a much darker side to Escobar. He was known to drill into his enemies' kneecaps and sew cocaine into pets to smuggle into Miami. Escobar would also kill his own mules to avoid spending cash. In one instance, he drowned a waiter who was caught pilfering silverware at one of his parties. He also killed every architect who built his hundreds of houses to keep the secrets of each estate. Even with the killings of childhood friends Mocanda and Gallano, he sent their fingers to their families. Bernardo Aparicio Garcia notes that the show largely glosses over his gratuitous cruelty, making one wonder about the true extent of his atrocities. 6. M19's true nature. Many experts disagree with this particular aspect of Narcos. M19, one of the largest guerrilla groups in Colombia, was portrayed as naive idealists who were led by an ex-college professor with no knowledge of guerrilla warfare. However, this portrayal is a dramatic misrepresentation of the facts. M19 had a feared presence in Colombia and was led by an experienced guerrilla leader named Ivan Marina Ospina, who had fought in Venezuela and been tortured before escaping. In the show, he is depicted as Ivan Torres, and his character is grossly misrepresented. Additionally, the show portrays the Palace of Justice attack as a botched operation by M19. But in reality, it was a well-executed plan that struck fear in many Colombians. Some experts even dispute the show's suggestion that Pablo Escobar was responsible for Ivan's death and the gifting of the famous Sword of Bolivar. 5. Pablo's relationship with his family. Since the family of the man was not consulted for the movie, the portrayal of their interactions with Pablo in the film was imaginative and may have been influenced by preconceived notions. One of the most misconstrued relationships in the film was between Pablo and his son Juan Pablo, who's now known as Sebastian Marroquin. Sebastian has since distanced himself from the drug trade and has spoken about his experiences in several interviews. He acknowledges that his father loved him, but also recognizes the effects of his father's violent activities. He remembers his father's teachings about drugs, but has never felt the pressure to take them. In one interview, Sebastian recounts how his mother begged Pablo to stop his incursions on Colombia, especially after a bombing that left his sister Manuela deaf in one ear. Despite their pleas, Pablo continued his activities. In contrast to his portrayal in the show as young and naive, Juan Pablo was actually 16 when his father died, and has a different account of Pablo's death. 4. Secrets of La Catedral. In the TV show, the luxurious conditions of Escobar's prison are depicted, showcasing some of his personal belongings. However, the show fails to reveal the entirety of the hidden content in La Catedral. As mentioned earlier, recordings were found, but there were also pictures in a large book left behind by Escobar. According to Agent Murphy and Piña's book Manhunters: How We Took Down Pablo Escobar, they discovered even more material. In Escobar's adjoining office, they found a film canister in the trash that, when developed, contained pictures of Escobar that they turned into wanted posters. Piña also had every wanted poster that had ever been issued against Escobar in Colombia. as well as articles about him and threatening notes from his enemies, carefully organized in his files. Furthermore, they discovered shocking letters from mothers offering their daughters to Pablo for sex, as well as lace negligées, vibrators, and other sex toys arranged neatly in a closet. Pina even slept in Escobar's bed but couldn't find any sleep, tossing and turning throughout the night. 3. Carlos Leder's influence. Klaus Wilhelm Leder, the father of Carlos Leder, was a German who married a woman named Helena Rivas in Colombia. Carlos and his mother later moved to America, but his parents eventually divorced and he ended up in prison. While in prison, Carlos met George Young, and they came up with a plan to revolutionize the cocaine trade by transporting drugs to the United States using small aircraft. This business was already in motion before Carlos met Pablo Escobar, and he played a crucial role in Escobar's rise to wealth. Carlos himself became a billionaire and even offered to pay off Colombia's external debt twice, once as part of his plan to avoid extradition. However, the show's depiction of Carlos as a mere dumbbell, who was regularly outed on national radio and told to shut up in meetings, was not a comprehensive representation of his story and downfall. 2. Escobar's suicide. The notion that Pablo Escobar committed suicide may seem improbable given his notorious history, but there are several reasons to consider this possibility. According to Escobar's son Juan Pablo, who was the last person to speak with him, Escobar believed that the telephone was a dangerous tool that could be used to track his whereabouts. Moreover, his family had just been rejected from Germany and were staying in a Colombian hotel owned by the armed forces, indicating that they were never truly safe. Additionally, Escobar had taught his son how to commit suicide quickly and painlessly if he were ever captured. On the day of his death, Escobar called his son several times while Lieutenant Martinez was using directional finding gear to track phone signals. When the police arrived at his location, Escobar told his son that something strange was happening before he was shot multiple times and died, with a bullet wound found in his right ear. 1. Wagner Moura's views on drug legalization. Wagner's portrayal of Pablo Escobar in Narcos was exceptional, garnering much acclaim for his performance. The Brazilian actor has become so closely associated with the character that his pictures can be found in a search for the drug lord's name. Interestingly, Wagner shares another belief with Escobar: the legalization of drugs such as cocaine. Having lived the life of Escobar, Wagner takes this issue even more seriously. He believes that in a world where cocaine was legal, Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria would be most recognized as a savvy entrepreneur who rose from rags to riches and gave back to the less fortunate. While many of his violent acts were aimed at silencing officials who threatened his freedom or extradition, the question remains: should cocaine really be legalized?